Senators Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders are working together to block an arms sale to Saudi Arabia worth billions. The Kentucky Republican and the former Democratic presidential candidate introduced a resolution of disapproval. Senator Paul says the sale includes 280 air-to-air missiles, 596 missile launchers, among other weapons, with an estimated cost of $650 billion. He says the sale could accelerate the arms race in the Middle East, putting our military in danger.
Latest news, Saudi Arabia. Headliner, Saudi-led coalition launches air raids on targets in Yemen, Sana'a. Reported from The Hill, dated November 22nd, 2021. The Saudi-led coalition launched air attacks on Tuesday on Houthi military targets in Yemen's capital city of Sana'a. Saudi state television reported that civilians were asked to avoid gathering or nearing the legitimate Houthi targets as explosions rattled the city, according to Reuters. Residents also told Reuters that the raids had targeted 2 military locations. The Houthis claimed on Saturday to have fired 14 drones at Saudi Arabian cities, though the coalition acknowledged the raid occurred in a district located in northern Sana'a. No details on casualties or on damages were provided. They did, however, say that the raids have resulted in the destruction of a high-value ballistic missile target. In 2015, following the ouster of the Saudi-backed government, the Houthis began using drones and missiles to carry out repeated attacks in Saudi Arabia, Reuters added. The Houthis have clashed with Yemen's U.S.-supported and Saudi-backed government for over 7 years as the country endures one of the world's most devastating humanitarian crises. Earlier this month, the Biden administration called for the immediate release of Yemeni staff of the U.S. Embassy in Sana'a after Houthi separatists detained them. The group also breached the American Embassy in Sana'a, which has been closed since 2015 amid the Yemeni civil war. Headliner, Turkish court seeks Saudi records for Khashoggi murder suspects. Al Jazeera, dated November 23rd, 2021. The Turkish court has asked authorities to check if defendants on trial in absentia for the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi already face charges in Saudi Arabia. The judge asked the Turkish Ministry of Justice to contact counterparts in Saudi Arabia and check if an investigation, prosecution, or sentencing has been carried out there against the defendants in the case in order to avoid retrying them for the same offense in Turkey. The judge set the next hearing for February 24th, 2022. Tuesday's hearing was the fifth in the trial, which began in 2020. The court is trying 26 Saudi nationals, including a vice consul and an attaché, accused of taking part in the killing of the journalist at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in October 2018. Khashoggi, who was a well-known critic of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, has been living abroad and was last seen entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd, 2018, to obtain documents needed to register a marriage. Soon after he entered the consulate, Khashoggi was killed by a team of Saudi agents who dismembered and disposed of his body, which has yet to be found. Fellow dissidents who knew Khashoggi, as well as top Turkish officials, have testified alongside Turkish staff working at the consulate over the course of the trial. Prosecutors are seeking aggravated life imprisonment for 4 defendants accused of premeditated murder with monstrous intent, while 18 others face aggravated life imprisonment for taking part in strangling Khashoggi. Another 4 people face up to 5 years in prison for destroying, concealing, or tampering with evidence. The Turkish court has twice rejected a request by the legal team of Khashoggi's Turkish fiancée, Hatice Cengiz, to include as evidence a U.S. intelligence report that found Mohammed bin Salman had approved the operation to capture or kill the journalist. The report released in February found the Crown Prince not only had decision-making authority in the kingdom to carry out such a killing, but also said there was direct involvement of a key advisor and members of his security detail. In previous hearings, the judge told Cengiz the report would bring nothing to the trial She should instead ask the Istanbul Prosecutor General to include the report in their filings. Prosecutors have so far given no indication they intend to cite the U.S. intelligence report. Cengiz told Al Jazeera she still hoped the case would provide justice for her fiancé, in which she said, "I hope to get all the evidence from the USA and continue to judge the real killers, as justice delayed is justice denied." Saudi authorities have said they have already punished those responsible for the murder, which they say was not sanctioned by Mohammed bin Salman. 8 people, none of them publicly named, have been jailed by the kingdom for between 7 and 20 years in what right groups have said in an attempt to give an impression the case is closed. Khashoggi's children have publicly said they pardoned their father's killers. Erol Indoroglu, a representative of the Turkish chapter of Reporters Without Borders, attended the hearing and told Al Jazeera no more witnesses are likely to be heard by the court, and raised fears that the case could be quietly set aside as Turkey and Saudi Arabia seek to mend political ties. Previous hearings have seen diplomats from several Western countries attend, but on Tuesday, only the German consulate sent an observer. The 3rd anniversary of the murder went unmarked this October in Istanbul, a stark contrast with previous memorial services held directly in front of the Saudi consulate, with the attendance of both Turkish and Iranian officials and a large media presence. The ability of the Turkish court to prosecute the Khashoggi murder not only has international implications, but also raises questions of what journalists inside Turkey can expect for their own safety as well. Ondukuru basically said at the end that the fact that the court twice rejected requests from Hatice Cengiz and a lawyer to include the U.S. intelligence report, and the fact the prosecutor has given no sign of asking for the report, together with the idea that Turkey and Saudi Arabia are launching a reconciliation and the 3rd anniversary of the murder passed silently, that all gives the impression the case is no longer popular. We can no longer pretend the Khashoggi case is at the top of the agenda, he said. That's the latest news. Now my thoughts regarding Yemen. This is plain as day that the Biden administration, just like past administrations, no longer hold up to their word. This is becoming a common theme with representatives of the United States federal government. And this doesn't adhere to just the left or the right. They're all liars. When Biden included ending the war in Yemen as a key goal during his first foreign policy speech as president, making this the speech on February 4th of 2021, where he basically said that one of his goals was to end the crisis that is afflicting the Yemeni public. He was basically breaking with his predecessors, Trump, who had backed the Saudis, even using a presidential veto to stymie a congressional attempt to end U.S. involvement in the war. But as you could see, the war is still ongoing, and that's because the Saudis have been quite an ally to U.S. federal government, such a strong ally that they are, that the State Department notified Congress just 20 days ago that they were approving of a $650 million arms sale in which members of the moderate Democrats, people like Bernie Sanders, and then you have Rand Paul, who are the only ones really basically opposing the deal, in which is abhorrent. Let's be honest, that we're still giving money to the greatest exporter of terrorism in the world, and it is Saudi Arabia. and Rand Paul is a Republican, and you may say, well, he's a Republican, he's part of that side. Well, if you're a Republican, or if you're a Democrat, let's put it this way, if you're a Democrat, are you going to approve that we should fund and continue funding the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the kingdom which basically is behind the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, who is basically behind the largest humanitarian crisis in Yemen, who is basically behind the exporter of terrorist groups in Syria, in Libya, in Pakistan, groups like Al-Qaeda, Jaish al-Islam, Jabhat al-Nusra, Abu Sayyaf, Boko Haram, the country that basically helped finance part of the September 11, 2001 operations, the one that gave blackmail money to groups like bin Laden's Al-Qaeda throughout the mid-90s. This is who we should be giving $650 million in arms to. Well, if you're for that, and I'm talking to you, the left, if you're for that, you're no better than your adversaries of the right who fund Saudi Arabia as well. And we have Republicans who basically adhere to the Saudi lobby. I just did a video based upon the Saudi lobby just yesterday. The power and influence of the Saudi lobby 2 days ago, by the way. That goes back decades to the tunes of billions of dollars. That's how they influence our Congress. Now, when it comes to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, right now, the Saudis are imposing the idea that the case is closed while giving them lenient sentences for murder. The same thing happened in the Khobar Towers bombing, where the Saudis basically killed a bunch of alleged dissents and blamed it on Al-Qaeda. The bombing, which took place in 1996. But there was no evidence to suggest this. And the FBI was suppressed in interviewing people who lived near the area. And we never got a real good investigation to that bombing because the Saudis suppressed the FBI from investigating that further. Why? Because Director Louis Freeh had a good relationship with Defense Minister Prince Sultan bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and King Fahd. And the pressure came from the White House, of course, because we had an ongoing relationship which we didn't want to alienate. Why? Because we're the biggest exporter of oil in their country. In fact, we are the oil regulators of that country, which is the reason why we give them military protection. And that the Saudis are the biggest purchasers of American-made weapons. We don't want to lose a good client. So as for your thinly transparent wishes for justice, well, that's not going to come because your government is a sellout. And no matter if it's Trump or Biden, the entire government are sellouts. And if you can't get behind that, then you're just a victim of the lies that they purport to you. In the end, you should blame yourselves for believing a single word these people say. Stop voting for these people, and maybe, just maybe, they might hear you.